Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 494 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. Here at the Unpopular Podcast, now we ask you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. When I dropped an episode on Wednesday, the news broke that Damian Lillard would be out indefinitely for blood clots. For people that don't know, blood clots is extremely serious. Blood clots are so, unless you keep going to the doctor regularly or they're looking for it, it's very hard to see. And it could be life-threatening. So I understand, Victor Wembanyama is dealing with this right now. Let's pray for a speedy recovery for both Victor Wembanyama and Damian Lillard. And it's unfortunate. I'm glad that they caught it when they did. I think it's in the right calf for Dame. And yeah, I don't know if he'll be back for this season, because that's what I say, indefinitely. And there's like 2 weeks left of the season, but Dame is out with blood clots or a blood clot, and yeah, that I pray for a speedy recovery. But I want to talk about this a little broader. I said going into this year that it was a very important year for the Milwaukee Bucks. When you get when you get a player the caliber of Damian Lillard, there are expectations. Especially when you pair that player with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You see, Giannis has been a champion. Giannis has 2 MVPs. He has a Defensive Player of the Year. He is established. And Damian Lillard is established as well, but obviously he hasn't done the same amount that Giannis has. Yes, Damian Lillard and I think Giannis both are in the NBA 75 team, but obviously Dame hasn't had the singular success that Giannis has. But when you pair those two up together, there's an expectation that you're going to be one of the best teams in basketball, because you're adding Damian Lillard to a team in the Milwaukee Bucks that has arguably one of, if not the best player in basketball. Plus, they've seen playoff success. And just like the Jets, just like any team that has high expectations that ultimately don't reach those expectations, it turns into questions. And those questions, the main question is, how did we not reach the expectations that our talent dictates that we should reach? When you look at understand that the East is weaker than the West. That's understandable. But when you look at this year's playoffs, and you can even go back to last year, obviously injuries play a huge part. And injuries played a huge part last year in the Bucks' pursuit to winning a championship. Dame was out. Giannis was out. It just wasn't. Their path wasn't there due to injury. Now, when that happens once, when your goals aren't met because of injury, at least once, you understand. There's not a lot of questions. People don't start pointing fingers because it's obvious. The caveat will always be, well, if we were healthy, we could do this. Or we would have been there if we were healthy. You can lean on that. While it may or may not be true, that's always the excuse. And people understand, okay, yeah, well, we'll never know. But when it happens again, and when expectations again aren't met, then those excuses start to turn into, yeah, well, when will you be healthy? You're never healthy. I understand it's been, 2 years that Dame has been with Giannis. But in those 2 years, it has gone extremely poor for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks is showing you that it takes more than just talent, and it takes more than just two players. I will say this, and in no metric am I saying that Drew Holiday is better than Damian Lillard. But what I am saying is, for what the Bucks need, if they had Drew Holiday over Damian Lillard, I think they'd be in a better spot. Again, I am not saying that Drew Holiday is better than Damian Lillard because I don't believe he is. But for the structure of the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe that Drew Holiday would have been a better fit and was a better fit for this team than Dame is. Which brings on why I'm extending this topic at the top of the show. I said that this is an important year for the Milwaukee Bucks because at some point, changes have to be made. And I'm looking at the scope of it all. While, yes, I'm including the injuries, I'm looking at it a little bit differently. Contrary to popular belief, basketball primes don't last as long as LeBron James's prime has. Your championship window isn't open that long in sports in general. I think one of the perfect examples from this is the Cincinnati Bengals. We thought, or they thought, after going to the Super Bowl, eventually losing to the Rams, but going to the Super Bowl, they thought that was going to be a constant thing. Well, we have not seen them in the Super Bowl since. In fact, the Philadelphia Eagles have been to two Super Bowls before Cincinnati's been back to one. So it's tough. And what I'm saying is, eventually you're going to have to start looking and say, all right, changes might need to be made. Because even when healthy, I think the issues that the issues that the Milwaukee Bucks have do not make them a championship caliber team. Even when healthy. Mind you, they're the 6th seed right now in the East. Detroit is over them. The Pacers are over them. The Knicks are over them. The Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they're not that far off than the 7th seed, which is the Atlanta Hawks. You have Damian Lillard. You have Giannis. And you can only muster up the 6th seed. Mind you, remember, Giannis was expressing his displeasure with this team right before they got Dame. Now, am I saying something as drastic as trade Giannis? No. When you have a player as good as Giannis, when you have a player as good as Luka, when you have a player as good as Nikola Jokic, you don't usually trade them. Especially, Giannis isn't that old. So I think you still have prime years left in Giannis. But I'm looking at it, and you're pretty much hampered if you don't make a seismic move like maybe trade Dame. Which brings me back to my first point. I hope that Damian Lillard gets healthy. I hope that we see him again this season. I hope that he's able to make a playoff run with this team this year. But I feel like we've seen the cap of this team. And that, in my opinion, is the issue. The cap is not as high as they probably thought it would be. So the last thing you want is an unhappy superstar. Like, that is the absolute last thing you want, especially in the NBA. And I don't know how many times. It's tough when you get to the championship and you're good enough to continue to do that. And you're seeing singular success. We'll be talking about MVPs. You're seeing all that, and you're just not getting to the mountaintop again. That would be frustrating. So how many times do you think you have two NBA 75 NBA team players and not make it to the championship? And even when you look, and I even said it when I was talking about the Detroit Pistons, I can see them upsetting somebody. If we started right now, the Bucks would play the Knicks. I could see them losing that. And then you get to a point where it's like, all right, this is the second year in a row that more than likely injuries will play a part in our playoff pursuit. How many times is that going to be a thing? We have a week and a half, 2 weeks left of the season. So I'm not saying anything should happen. But what I'm saying is don't be shocked if major changes are coming to this Milwaukee Bucks team if they don't reach their ultimate goal and at least get to a championship. But I don't think they will. I don't think they're better than the Cavaliers. I definitely don't think they're better than the Celtics. It's still debatable with the Knicks. I don't know. And now with this Damian Lillard injury, that makes it 10 times harder. So again, I hope for a speedy recovery, but this will be yet another. This year looks eerily similar to last year. With Damian Lillard, team didn't play defense really. They're not great at defense at all. And injuries derailed their end of year goal. So at some point it goes from being an excuse to all right, like it's starting to be the norm. And once that becomes a norm, changes have to be made. So I started this off by saying that this was a big year for the Bucks. And it's looking like it will be yet another year where they don't reach their goals. When you have a player as good as Giannis, I don't know how many times you can do that before major changes have to be made. Because you made one. You made one giving up Drew Holiday to get Dame. That's a major change. Drew Holiday is an integral part of championship teams. But as great as Dame is, as great as Giannis is, it hasn't worked out. If we're being realistic to this point. So, who knows? Speaking of who knows, I want to talk about a topic that has been running rampant in social media and in the sports world. And that is the WNBA's fight with the players and the CBA. And how there are players that are contemplating. Well, we all know what a lockout is. A lockout is when, the CBA and the league aren't agreeing. The players and the CBA, they're not agreeing on the numbers. So instead of going out there, the players decide or the teams decide we're not going to play. And there have been players, not all of them, but there have been players that have threatened to essentially sit out if their demands, or not demands, if their asking price is not met. Let me first admit that the WNBA is in a beautiful place. Meaning that there is more growth coming to the league and in the league right now than we've seen probably in its existence. More eyes. I think Unrivaled helped it more than anything. It's such a great time to have to be in the WNBA, and in a sense of the popularity, the viewership that you've been asking for is here and growing. There was a time when nobody, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I'm just being honest. There was a time when nobody cared about women's sports, like no one. And now, even if it is a trend, even if it's whatever, it's still at its highest point. I would like to contribute it to just the amount of players that social media plays a huge part, and the age group of the audience plays a huge part. But when you have Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, it's when you have stars on both levels. And when I mean both levels, I mean the WNBA and college. Juju, Paige Beckerts, Olivia Munn, Olivia Miles, I'm sorry. Hannah Hidalgo. Like there are stars everywhere. And because of that, I think that this is the absolute worst time to be thinking, to be contemplating a lockout or a sit out when it comes to the WNBA. Let me preference this by saying that I believe that everybody should get what they feel they deserved. Everybody, if they, I talk about this with NFL, I talk about this. If you feel you can negotiate, if you feel that you deserve this, whatever type of money, I hope that you get that plus some. At the end of the day, these leagues outside of maybe the NFL, these leagues profit most by what you do and your likeness, which is why there are NIL deals in college basketball right now or in college sports in general. So even in the WNBA, I want everyone to get paid what they feel they deserve. And on top of that, you're seeing like the New York Liberty put billions into a new practice facility, which is crazy that there are a lot of teams in the, I think there's 12 teams, well, more teams are coming, but a lot of teams in the WNBA do not have designated practice facilities or up-to-date practice facilities. So when you see someone like the New York Liberty putting billions upon billions into a new practice facility, and in one hand, that's great. You know, you're finally stepping up to the times. You're finally catching up. But on the other hand, it's like, all right, hold on. Well, yes, we want a state-of-the-art, want a up-to-date practice facility. What about the fact that we're asking for more equity? We're asking for more pay. That's what the players are essentially saying. And I believe they deserve to get more. But you have to realize, we have to realize something. We're in a new realm right now when it comes to the WNBA. I just talked about it in the sense of its popularity. The thing about it is that popularity is extremely fragile right now. You think that you have devoted fans now. You think that the new fans that you're bringing in is devoted and will stick with you through thick and thin. You are wrong. The thing about new fans, the thing about young people is their attention span is extremely low and extremely short. So if you're at a really high point right now, and you can say it's because of Caitlin Clark. You can say it's because of Asia Wilson. Who cares who it's because? That is where we're at. We are at a point in the WNBA season where it's not season, but in the lifespan of the WNBA where they're extremely popular. Which means more money comes in, which means more viewership, which means more deals. The last thing you want to do is hold that for a lockout. Because I'm gonna tell you what a lockout is gonna do. A lockout, not only is you're going to forfeit, miss games, but you're going to then turn off the casual fans. And as unfortunate as it is, the WNBA has a lot of casual fans right now. There's an opportunity for those casual fans to turn into more active and more dedicated fans. But right now, the WNBA has a lot of casual fans because they're new to it. They've just been introduced to it, really. You do a lockout, you lose those fans because they're like, all right, well, there's other things I can be watching. On top of that, you lose sponsorships, you lose deals, and that pay, that equity that the women are fighting so hard for and rightfully should get is going to decrease because now there's no justification of you getting what you think you deserve. Because they're just going to be like, well, you see what happened? Like, now look at the viewership. Now look at the audience. Like, you know. I just, especially off the success of Unrivaled, which honestly is kind of what is driving this conversation as well. Because you hear a lot of the players saying that the facilities, the treatment that they experience in Unrivaled is much better than the WNBA, which is why you're seeing the WNBA like, all right, we're going to put millions upon billions in practice facilities. But the players are like, well, hold on. What about putting it into the players? So trust me, I get both sides. I understand both sides completely, and I hope and want the players to get the equity they feel they deserve. But I think that this would be such a bad time for a lockout. Such a bad. Now, it may or may not happen. I don't think it will. But if it does, it is detrimental to the league. I will give the WNBA credit for this. They have slowly but surely gradually improved in areas that a lot of people have asked them to improve. I mean, one of the biggest thing is the chartered planes. Like, I say this all the time. There should be no reason why on any given Tuesday I should be sitting on the same exact plane as WNBA champion A'ja Wilson. It shouldn't. And I always bring that up is because that happened. I don't know if we were on the same plane, but we for sure were boarding. Like, we were the Vegas Aces. They were leaving DC, and I saw them. I saw Kelsey Plum. I saw A'ja Wilson. I saw I saw all of them, and I'm thinking to myself, "Yo, this is a WNBA championship team." This was after their first year. They were obviously trying. This was before the two-peat. This was the two-peat season. I'm like, yo, that is A'ja Wilson, bro. That's Kelsey Plum. That should not happen. You know when that would never happen? Outside of the offseason, I get. But during the regular season, I'm never running into the Washington Wizards. Unless they have one of those things in New York where they take the metro to the game. I'm never running into LeBron James and the LA Lakers. I'm never running into Luka. I should not be running into two-time champion A'ja Wilson. That happened. True story. So shout out to the WNBA for getting the whole plane thing situated. I know that was a big thing of why are they doing this now because of Caitlin Clark. Okay, if she's the catalyst to change, let that happen. And, you know, we're seeing new teams like the Toronto Tempo or the Golden State Valkyrie. You know, we're seeing growth, which as a basketball fan, as a W fan, I'm excited to see. Yes, I would still wish that they could extend the roster maybe, but I do love the fact that there are new teams coming to the league. But I'm pretty much saying all that to say, man, like this is a growth time for the W, and they're doing, I'm not going to say a great job, they're doing a good job, and they are getting multiple people to watch that they struggled with before. You can say it's because of Caitlin Clark. All right, cool. So let it happen. I just don't see the benefit of a lockout. I see nothing but cons. When we talk about pros and cons, I see nothing but cons for a lockout right now. Especially when the WNBA is growing at a rate that I don't think they've ever seen or expected to see, to be honest with you. I mean, outside of this, there's a lot of positives coming, like a lot positive things, stories coming out like Candace Parker getting her jersey retired for the Sparks. Like, come on, man. Candace Parker is arguably the greatest women's player in the history. That should be the main focus, not a lockout. Shout out to Candace Parker, by the way, for getting your jersey retired. That's huge. I think that I'm not 100% sure, but I think that she would be the second player to get their jersey retired. The first one, I believe, being Lisa Leslie for the Sparks. Because I know Maya Moore, her jersey's retired. I'm sure Diana Taurasi's jersey would be retired for the Mercury. So all I'm saying is, man, I don't think a lockout would be the best right now. That's all I'm saying. Let's move forward. I saw Cam Newton talk about this, and I wanted to give my 2 cents. Shouts out to Cam Newton, and I think it's 4th and 1, his podcast. I watch it regularly. Shouts out to them. I love what they're doing over there. But they were talking about the coverage that Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward is receiving compared to other players in the draft. And the question was, is there a racial component? Because when you're hearing a lot of things about Shedeur Sanders, mostly Shedeur Sanders, but Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, it's not the most positive thing. Like, we've talked about it. I do think that there is a racial thing when we talk about some of the personality traits that Shedeur Sanders has. Because I think that confidence, the composure that he has, I don't think that a lot of people are able to deal with that or even know how to label it properly. So in that sense, I do believe that there is such a racial component. But I also want to express this. I'm not even talking about I'll talk about that later, closer to the draft, about who, maybe do a top 10 mock draft. I don't know. But I will say this. The one thing that Cam Newton said, and the one thing that I and the quote-unquote normal folk will never understand is the whole combine, the whole pre-draft process. But Cam Newton was saying that it's the coaches, it's the scouts, their job to get under your skin. And it's their job to get under your skin because they want to know that you can handle anything. They want to know that you can keep a level head, you can get hit with any question. They essentially want to know, are you a professional? in all aspects. And I understand that. What's about to happen to these players, especially players atop of the draft, is they're about to make life-changing money. These owners are about to give these players life-changing money. Just like that. And when there's that much money to be made, that much money to be handed out, as the person giving the money, I want to make sure that the person that I'm giving this money to, this life-changing money, is the person that should be getting the money, is the right choice. And I hear that a lot. I hear when there's negative press, people are hating or people are being racist towards these, or if you don't know if you're going to go with Shedeur, if you're going to go with Cam Ward, they're putting them against each other. No, I can see some of it, but I look at it as this, bro. If I'm going to invest millions upon millions upon millions of you, I want to make the right choice. So I will say this. Let's not always, and I had an issue with this as well. Let's not always label it as racial, or let's not always label it as hating. They're trying to make the best decision. Now, if they make the right decision, that's on them. We'll talk about that in a second. That's on them. But I don't think that people are trying to be, these teams are trying to be racial when deciding or saying that, all right, well, I do think it's an issue that Cam Ward threw incredible passes on his pro day and Shedeur Sanders sat out. I can see where the issue would be for the teams. Not saying that I have an issue with it, but I'm also not the one handing out the money. You know what I mean? We're dealing with organizations like the Cleveland Browns, like the Tennessee Titans, like the New York Giants that have swung heavily and missed heavily. The Cleveland Browns paid Deshaun Watson the most guaranteed money in NFL history before Josh Allen just did it a couple weeks ago. And you see where that's gotten them. The Giants refused to pay Saquon Barkley the money that he owed and let him walk for Daniel Jones. You see where neither one of them, by the way, are still on the team. The Tennessee Titans, they drafted Will Levis and thought that was going to be the guy. And Malik Willis. Malik Willis is not even on the team anymore, and we don't know if they're going to keep Will Levis or not. What I'm saying is you do not want to be, they don't want to continue to swing and miss. I would even argue they can't afford to swing and miss at all. So when you hear them say, well, I don't know about the character of Shedeur Sanders, I don't think that that's racial. It's just, they cannot afford. These people's jobs, these people's livelihood are on the line. Just like Cam's, just like Shedeur, these livelihoods on the line. If they mess up, if they get the wrong person, Cam can just get traded. Shedeur can just get traded. Yeah, they'd be considered what they're considered, but they can just be traded to another team, like Malik Willis. These other people are getting up out of here. The front office, they getting fired, bro. So, yes, I do think that there are instances where there are racial undertones, and we've talked about it, especially when we talk about somebody's, confidence or somebody's character. And when they give examples, like, he was just being confident in himself. But when they're questioning some of the things that they do or don't do, I don't think that they're being racist. I don't think that they're hating. I just think, yeah. I just think, we're about to invest millions upon millions of dollars into you. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. I do think it's interesting though, because one thing that I'm hearing, and again, I'm not going to go into the whole mock draft thing, but one thing I've been hearing is there are teams that are willing to pass on a Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders because they think that there's a quarterback next year that they can get. They can just be bad next year. And my thing is, who do you see on the horizon that is good enough or that is on the same level as a Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders? I think the thing that sucks, and the thing that I believe a lot of scouts hang their ideas on is, there's not a CJ Stroud. I don't think Cam Ward or Shedeur is on the same level right now as CJ Stroud. I don't think that I don't think either one of them is Jordan Love right now. I don't think either one of them. They probably are better than Bryce Young, but those are two by far best quarterbacks in this draft. I just don't know. After what I've seen, I don't know if they're franchise changing right now. I think they have the tools to. I mean, Shedeur Sanders played behind arguably the worst offensive line for like 2 years, worst offensive line in college football, and still was putting up the numbers. Cam Ward was throwing the ball all over the place, just racking up stats. So I think that they're going to be extremely good. I just, and that's the thing. I think Abdul Carter is great. I think Travis Hunter is great, especially if you let him play both sides of the ball. My thing is, all right, well, outside of, like, if you're Tennessee, at this moment, do you think that Will Levis is that much better than Cam Ward or that much better than Shedeur Sanders? I don't. I know that the Giants just got two veteran quarterbacks. They got Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. Does that mean you're not going to go for a quarterback? Does that mean that you're now going to go for like Travis Hunter or something? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But we will see. I want to talk about MLB Opening Day because that happened, 2 days ago? And it has been well documented that I'm not a huge baseball fan. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am. I'm not going to talk to you like I am. Baseball just doesn't tickle the fancy for me. It just doesn't. And one thing I will say though, because everyone that talks about baseball pretty much says that it's a different experience when you go to a ballpark for a game. I've never been as a fan. I worked the World Series when the Nationals were in it, but I never been as a fan. I never was able to sit back, relax, enjoy a hot dog, and just be one with the park. I've never experienced that. So that could shape how I see baseball, you know what I mean? But it just isn't exciting to me. It's just not a great watch. And I will shout out to Nick Wright. He was talking about this the other day. I'm never going to present myself as a baseball expert. I'm never going to present myself in a way that you think I'm sitting here dissecting people's RBIs or dissecting people's bat ratio. Like, nah. That's never. I don't think I've ever even looked at bat ratio. So yeah, I'm not the biggest baseball fan. I'll be real with you. However, this opening day feels a little different than it's been before. Now, there have been a lot of moves, seismic moves, this offseason. I mean, we saw Juan Soto go from the Yankees to the Mets. We saw the Dodgers sign damn near everybody because they had the money to do it. You know, the reason why I said that this opening day feels different is because it feels like the best way I can put it is to relate to something that I know very fondly of. You remember back in 2016-17 season in basketball, Kevin Durant just went to the Golden State Warriors, and there was a feeling, even on opening day, opening week, that like it doesn't really matter. There's not a team on this planet that can beat that 2016-17 Warriors. And they showed it. It was clear as day. Even in the playoffs, bro, they won. I mean, they lost one game the entire playoffs. It was just a feeling throughout the entire season like, man, ain't nobody beating this team. That's kind of how I felt on opening day. Now, yes, there are some really good teams like the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are really good. The Yankees are good, but they're dealing with injuries with Garrett Cole. He's one of many injured. Hopefully the Orioles or Nationals, even though the Nationals did lose to the Phillies, I believe. Hopefully the Orioles or them do something. The Orioles look really good, but that's kind of how they usually are. There are good storylines, a bunch of places. You know, are the Cleveland Guardians, are they going to be good? You know, when are the Houston Astros ever going to get back to that level? Will the Juan Soto move for the Mets pay off? Which a lot of people don't think it will because it's the Mets. But you do have Juan Soto and Pete Alonso. However, you had Juan Soto, Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, and that still didn't do it for you. I don't know. It just feels different. This feels like it's a foregone conclusion. And as much as I think that there are going to be great storylines, I think that there's one that's going to run rampant, and that is who can, if anyone, can stop this Dodgers team. You know how they say a big bank takes little bank? That's what we're seeing. They were able to get everyone and their mama on incredibly crazy deals. A lot of it is because that Shohei Ohtani contract and how it's so backloaded, you can do a lot in the immediate. But yeah. So breaking news from when I'm recording this happens. Taylor Jenkins, the now former head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies, is fired after 6 seasons. The Grizzlies are currently, I think, fifth in the West right now. Mind you, the loaded West, they're fifth. On top of that, Ja has been hurt this year. I think he's hurt right now. And it's just been, he got hurt last year. You know, there's been a lot of things going on in Memphis that you can argue. I don't think there really is an argument. Isn't really Taylor Jenkins' fault. It's just been going on. I don't know why he was fired. But here's my thing, man. Yes, you can say that they've lost, 4 of their last 5 games. But again, I don't think John Morant played in any of those. He was the winningest coach in the Grizzlies' history. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest record, but he's 250 and 214 as a record. It's all about, my thing is, bro, expectations. And I think that there are instances where expectations are not not realistic. Cause I'm like, you're the Memphis Grizzlies. You have a young team. Your star is a player that relies so heavily on his athleticism, like a John Wall, like a Derrick Rose, like a Russell Westbrook when he was younger. Actually, like a Russell Westbrook, that any type of injury can derail this team, which it has. What has Taylor Jenkins done to deserve getting fired? I don't know. You trade away Marcus Smart, who apparently was like the heart and soul of your team. My thing is this, bro. You have a good team. You've had a good team for a minute, but it's all about expectations. Do you think that this team is better than? Let's see. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's look at the standings currently for the West. Well, I don't think that they're better than the Oklahoma City Thunder. You can make an argument about the Rockets, even though I think they've won 10 of their last 11 games. They're not better than Denver. I don't think they're better than the Lakers, especially with Luka. What are we doing? I don't know. Maybe this is I don't know why he was fired, but he was fired. And it's like he did a great job. Yeah, there were times in the playoffs where they didn't meet expectations, but one of them times they were playing against Golden State. Ja Morant got hurt. Last season, they were playing. Who were they playing against? The Lakers. Ja Morant got hurt, and Dylan Brooks was talking, but Ja Morant got hurt. Newsflash, bro. Your chances of winning anything drastically decreases if your star player is out. Yeah, I don't care how good Jaren Jackson Jr. is. I don't care how good Brandon Clark is. Both good players. I don't care how good Desmond Bane is. If you don't have Ja Morant, you don't really have a shot. And damn near every single playoff run, Ja Morant has gotten hurt. So I'm like, when we talk about some of the best coaches in basketball, Taylor Jenkins' name comes up. Mind you, there's a lot of personalities that you have to deal with in Memphis. One of them being your star player. And I'm not going to talk about the stuff that he did in the past, but I will say your star player has not made it easy for you. I just don't get it. I don't understand why. Unless you have a home run hitter coming to the team as a head coach, I don't understand. Taylor Jenkins was that. Maybe he lost the locker room. I don't know. I know the whole Desmond Bane pushing homeboy, his own teammate, didn't look good, but is that Taylor Jenkins' fault? No. My thing is, man, if the whole thing, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Yeah, that doesn't really pertain to sports in a sense, but I can say, um, what? Why are you making these drastic changes if you don't need to? Do you know? I don't remember the last time a head coach was fired 2 weeks before the season ends, and that team goes and just does exponential things. I don't. Let me see the Memphis Grizzlies roster, bro. A roster. Let me see. All right. Santi Adama. That's the dude that Desmond Bane pushed. Desmond Bane, Marvin Bagley the third. I didn't even know. I love basketball, and I watch it every day. I didn't even know Marvin Bagley was on the Grizzlies. Brandon Clark, Zach Edey, Gigi Jackson, who's 20 years old. What do you expect this team to do? I'll tell you. I definitely don't expect this team to be 44 and 29. Even with Ja Morant being out. And, might add, Ja Morant's having a down year. 22 points a game, cool. But he's been out. Stuff like this just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not caping for Taylor Jenkins. What I will say, though, is you're essentially punting on the season. But it makes no sense because you're punting on the season 2 weeks before the playoffs. And you're the 5th seed. You're not even in the play-in. You're the 5th seed. And you're punting on the season. Because I don't know a team that is just going to rally and make, especially in the West, make a deep playoff run with a new head coach after you fire. Again, maybe they wanted him fired. I don't know. Maybe he lost the locker room, but you don't do that at the end. Okay, I'll say it like this. Even if you think that Taylor Jenkins doesn't give you the best chance to win, you think the assistant coach that's going to be the interim coach does? What? People be just so backwards with it, bruh. Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. Hell, do you know how many teams that he would be a head coach for right now? Like, you don't think who is it? You don't think the Charlotte Hornets would consider him? You don't think the New Orleans Pelicans or the Utah Jazz? I don't even know who the Utah Jazz coach is. Or hell, everything going on with Mike Budenholzer right now and the Suns, you don't think that they could maybe entertain Taylor Jenkins? Man, I just don't get it. Like, if you're what are your expectations? What are your goals? Because I don't see how you reach those goals, at least this year, or put yourself in the best position to reach those goals, at least this year. And you fire your head coach 2 weeks before the playoffs start. And you're a playoff team. Again, maybe it was just he lost the locker room, but still. Okay. If he lost the locker room, that means you have no shot of winning in the playoffs with him. You also have no shot of winning in the playoffs without him because you'll be the 5th seed. That means you're playing you're playing the 4 or 5 seed. That means you're playing the Lakers. I don't know. And honestly, depending on how things shake up, you could drop now because Golden State, you're 3.5 games back, or Golden State at 3.5. Golden State and the Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves are 3.5 to 4 games behind the Memphis Grizzlies for 5th. And the Lakers for 4th. So this is a very important time of the year. It's a very important stretch for NBA teams, and you think the best thing that you can do is fire your head coach, the winningest head coach of your franchise. And if you can say, well, Jalen, they're only 44-29. Mind you, Ja Morant has missed a lot of games. In fact, I want to put that into perspective really quick before we get off of this. How many games has Ja Morant missed? Give me a second. Memphis Grizzlies. Their leading scorer is Jaren Jackson Jr., Ja Morant. This year, Ja Morant has played 43 games. 43 games. I'm just going to make sure that is correct. He's played 43 games. I don't know if 44-29. Give me a second. Let me just see. They're 44-29. 44 plus 29. They've played 73 games. That means he's missed 30 of them. What do you think you're doing when your star player misses damn near half the season? I can tell you what you're doing. You're not good into 44-29. It don't make no sense to me. That's all I'm saying. It don't make no sense. You can justify the firing, I guess, if you want. What I don't think you can justify is the timing. 2 weeks before the season's end. What this means, in my opinion, is you already knew that you were going to fire him, that you wanted to fire him. Or, let me say this. His job was already on the fence. And something had to, maybe, again, and I keep saying lost the locker room because when firings like this happen, seemingly sudden firings, that's usually what happens. Usually either the star goes to management and says, yo, we don't want this coach, or he loses the locker room and you're just short. He loses the locker room. None of the players want him to coach. Cool. I don't know. I'm just speculating because this does not make sense. And I think the winningest coach, 44-29, all that. What doesn't make sense is you did this 2 weeks or a week and a half before the regular season ends, and you're a high playoff team. I don't know, man. What do I know? That's crazy. On top of that, bro, you can say, well, look at it. He's lost 5 for the last 5. Yeah, without their best player. You see what Golden State look like, even with Jimmy Butler, even with what's his name, Draymond Green. You see what they look like without Steph against the Heat. Didn't the Lakers just go on a losing streak because they didn't have LeBron like a cup, man? It don't make no sense, but hey, I don't know. There you have it, man. That's been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate everybody. All my YouTube followers, I appreciate you guys. If you know someone that isn't following, please tell them to subscribe. It means so much to me. Tell a friend. Please, please, please. I'm trying to grow the podcast, and I can't do it without you guys. So if you know anyone that isn't subscribed, if you're watching me and you've seen me on YouTube, and you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, for my DSP listeners, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, please subscribe, please follow. No platform is more important than the other. If you like hearing my luscious voice, please follow. It means a lot. It means so much to me. My social media people, that's Instagram, TikTok. I post pretty much daily there, reels, stories. That's when we can go back and forth. That's where, if you want to, that's the quickest way to get to me. If you keep it respectful, I don't mind going back and forth. It just means you're listening to me. You're passionate about whatever we're talking about. You have an opinion about whatever we're talking about. And you want me to know about it. Again, you can tell me how wrong you think I am. If you keep it respectful, I don't mind it. I appreciate it all. Today was a quick one. I have a really busy day. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, much love.